welcome to Extraordinary People in an Ordinary World. I'm your host, Beth, and I'm an ordinary person amazed by the extraordinary people surrounding us. This podcast is about people who live among us who are doing extraordinary things. You can expect to meet people from all walks of life doing things that may inspire you, make you want to change, or just simply sit back and delight in their stories. I have met the most extraordinary people in my ordinary world, and I am so grateful to have the opportunity to share their stories. Now listen in and enjoy. Your inspiration may be right here in this episode. Today's episode takes us back in time and across continents as we sit down with an extraordinary woman whose life began in one of history's darkest chapters. Born prematurely in a Japanese internment camp in Indonesia during World War II, her early years were marked by unimaginable hardship. After the war, she and her family relocated to the Netherlands, beginning a long journey of healing, survival, and self-discovery. She became a nurse, dedicating her life to helping others. But it was her work counseling women in abusive relationships that helped her find her true voice and her purpose. In 2007, she published her memoir, Hold On to Your Dreams, a powerful testament to the human spirit and the will to overcome. Now, years later, she's releasing her book on the 80th anniversary of the liberation of the camp where she was born. She was assisted in that re-release by the founder of Dream Right Design, who is also with us today. I'm honored to welcome Françoise Maricle and Connie Monroe to the podcast today. Welcome, both of you.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Thanks for having us, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Françoise, would you be able to take us back to the beginning? What do you remember about your birth and the circumstances around it in the internment camp? Obviously, you were not able to remember lots of things. So what kind of memories do you get from people who were there and spent the time with you?
Yeah, I don't have any personal memories. Actually, I don't have any memories until about I was 4. But what I've been told is that my mother was pregnant with me, and she knew that she was going to have an early delivery. So she asked the Japanese people if she could go to the hospital in the town of Medan. And for some reason or another, they let her do that. So I was born in a hospital. I weighed about 4 pounds. And I was 2 months prematurely, but that's about all I can say about that part. Yeah.
So for many of us, we're not that familiar with what happened in Japan and the Japanese internment camps. How did that all come to play for your family that you ended up in this camp?
Okay, Indonesia was a Dutch colony.
Okay.
And Japan wanted to overtake that colony because of all the things like oil and all the other things that they could get out of there. So they went to the Indonesian people and they said, "We know you want to be free from the Dutch people. When we win the war, we'll make sure that you have nothing to do with the Dutch people anymore. You're all on your own." And so the Indonesian people and the Japanese people put us all in camps so that we couldn't do anything. We couldn't even go anyplace.
How was the treatment in those camps? Did anybody ever talk to you about that and how you were all treated? I mean, I see you told me that your mom was able to go and have you give birth in a hospital so that you were safe because you were premature. Were they overall good to you, or was there a lot of mistreatment?
And there was very, very much a lot of mistreatment. Especially, I was told when the full moon was out that night, the Japanese were really, really mean. I mean, you could barely look at anything, and they would beat you or something like that. But yeah, the treatment was very, very bad, and oftentimes not for the right reason. They just wanted to say, "Okay, you did that, and this is what happens," and stuff. And they didn't feed us. We had to somehow take care of our own food. We had to get water out of the river upstream. We had to go and get big buckets of water, filthy water out of the river. And then when the water was back where we could get the water from, the water was filled up really fast with bugs and cockroaches and all that stuff. So I was exposed to all kinds of filth and diseases and crap for the first 3.5 years of my life. Yeah.
How was your whole family there?
My mother was there with me and my older brother. And
Okay.
my father was in a camp way over by where the bridge over the River Quay was built.
Okay.
That's where they put him. So they didn't even know. My mother didn't know when she went into the camp that she was pregnant. And so when the war was over and they did get reunited for some reason, my dad didn't even want to acknowledge that I was his kid because I was 3.5 years old. I looked like a 1 year old in very bad shape, and he just wouldn't accept me. But the only reason I think that they stayed alive is because they were extremely overweight before the war started. My dad was like 350 pounds. My mom was
Oh,
close
wow.
to 300 pounds. And when the war was over, my mom only weighed barely 100 pounds. And she's like
Mm.
5'8" or 5'9". And so she was very, very thin. And my dad was also very, very thin.
And
My dad,
obviously, you didn't get the nourishment you needed to look like a 1 year old when you were 3.5.
yeah, I couldn't even stand up by myself or walk or anything like that. And I couldn't even eat. They had to feed me when we were back in Holland. And my grandpa was a doctor, a medical doctor, and he knew how to take care of me. He said I could only accept, my stomach only could accept for about 1 spoon of milk every hour, and that's all my stomach could take for quite a long time.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
he didn't think I was going to survive.
So you and your brother were together with your mom, and your dad was separated. Did they typically do that where they separated men from women?
Yeah, they separated the men from the women. They would not give them and tell them where they were going to be. And the boys, if they were 12 or older, they would go to the man's camp, which was really
Okay.
hard on those kids. And the Dutch people, the Dutch kids and Dutch people are way taller than the Japanese people. So
Mm.
oftentimes they thought this kid is 12 years old, even though he was only maybe 10.
Yeah.
And he was sent over to the man's camp.
Oh.
And they didn't give him any notice. They just said, "Oh, in 3 hours, we take your son away. So say goodbye." That's it.
But did your brother stay with you guys the whole time, you and your
Yeah,
mom?
yeah. My
He
brother was
did.
only 5 years old when he got in the camp.
Okay. So he probably has some memories from there.
He claims not to have any memory. He's no longer alive, but he always claimed that he didn't have any memories.
Oh,
And
that
maybe
might
he
have been.
didn't. Maybe he just didn't want to have memories.
I was going to
And maybe
say,
that's
maybe
why.
that was protective for him.
Yeah, maybe I don't have. That's why I don't have any memories. I don't have any memories whatsoever.
Hmm.
The
So
only thing
most
I have
of
is
your, go ahead.
the only thing I have is if I'm in certain situations, then I
Okay.
get this really bad feeling and I don't want to be in it.
I want to take a moment to thank our sponsor, Calm Creations. If you like relaxing by the warm glow of a candle with the scent that brings back memories, I've got the perfect candle company for you. Calm Creations, based in New Jersey, makes high quality, beautifully scented candles, and 10% of their profits go to benefit nonprofit organizations. Check out their amazing selection at calmcreations.com. And thank you for being a sponsor of Extraordinary People in an Ordinary World. That's I was going to ask you that. Like, how do you think being born there, how do you think that trauma shaped you and your sense of who you are and how you became and grew up, like how you started as a child and grew up into a woman? How did that shape your life overall?
Well, the first 3.5 years, I was just in a little box, laying in a little box. I couldn't do nothing. And all I heard around me was crying and screaming and people being beaten and being mistreated. And I felt very, very helpless because I couldn't do nothing. So to this day, I still feel myself that I can't do anything. I just can't do anything. And then on the other hand, on the flip side of that is that um, I knew I had to stay alive,
Mm-hmm.
and I saw a lot of women. They were determined to stay alive, So they, I think I inherited also the part of to be strong and to stay alive and do things.
A
I have
survivor, resilience. That's what it sounds like.
I have kind of like I can't do anything and it's too hard for me, but I want to do things because that's how I am. So
But
kind
I'm
of
going to do it anyway. You're a
yeah.
good example of resilience for sure. For
Hmm.
sure.
Thank you.
So you're in the Japanese internment camp. You and your family meet up again. Miracle in itself, right? That you meet your dad
Hmm.
again. What was that transition like from you moving from that Japanese internment camp back to the Netherlands?
Well, let me back up a minute if I can.
Okay, sure, please.
When the war ended in August 15th, the Japanese had lost the war, and they were not very happy about that at all. And so that the Indonesian people who had been promised that they would be freed from us were not very happy because the Japanese had lost the war. So they
Mm-hmm.
became our enemies. The Indonesian people became our enemies. And then there was nobody else yet to protect us. So here
Oh,
we had to be protected by the Japanese. So from one day to the next, one day the Japanese are bad, stay away from them. The next day it said, he's going to protect you and he's going to take care of you.
wow. Wow. I don't think many people listening would even understand this story without you explaining that, because it's not something that we're really taught anywhere within our history books or anything like that. So it's really a good story to bring to people to see how the things that people went through during World War II. And I was unaware of the Japanese internment camps.
No.
Well, yeah, and that was one of the reasons that when Francoise and I met, I was like, your story needs to be told. Like I was a history minor in college. I never heard of this, and really what you just said, Francoise, when I read your book, that was one of the most jarring parts, right? So one day you've got these people running the camp and they're beating and torturing people. And the next day you have to depend on them to protect you. Like,
Yep.
talk about
I
trauma.
think I think for a little tiny kid, that would be very, very confusing. I mean, the adults probably, they could figure it out, but when you're just a little kid,
Yeah.
Right.
it's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah.
So so you asked me about when we went back to the Netherlands. In 1946, they finally had boats to take us back to the Netherlands. We all had to leave Indonesia because Indonesia people, they were going to kill us. And they had been
Oh,
killing people from August 15th until then. And so the people that had the weakest kids or the weakest people, they got to go on the first boat. Well, I was on one of the first boats.
that was you.
Not one of the first. I was on the very first boat, and then and that was a six week trip. In those days, it took 6 weeks to
Wow.
be on that boat.
On the
And
boat.
while we were on that boat, I got what do you call that? Whooping cough. I got whooping cough.
Oh.
And there was nobody to take care of us, nobody to give us medications or anything. My mother had to stand there, like holding me like this, and outside on the deck and stuff. And for some reason or another, I survived that as well, without any care. But so then we came back to the Netherlands, and the people in Holland, they were not in the Netherlands. They were not very happy at all because the Germans had been bombing a lot in the Netherlands, a lot of houses, cities. So there was a shortage of places to live for the people who were there all along. And here come all these people from Indonesia, and they want a house, they want a place to live, and we were not very welcomed at all. So
You were refugees then.
yeah, even though we were Dutch people,
Right. Right. You were like
we
refugees.
yeah.
So how did your parents make it there?
What do you mean? How did they make it there?
What did they do to survive once they got to the Netherlands?
Oh,
Were you able to buy a home?
no.
Was dad able to get a job? How did that work out?
Yeah, when the war was over, let's see, my father was born in 1897, so he was like 50. He was almost 50 years old, and we moved in for a short time with my mom's parents up in northern Holland, but he had a hard time getting a job at that age, and he didn't like it at all because he liked Indonesia where the weather was nice and no rain. And here he had some kind of a sales job, and he had to take the bus to wherever, and he had to stand and wait in the rain, in the cold, and all that stuff. So he hated that. So then his sister told him he could have a job in The Hague, and we could live with them, with her and her family. So he took that job, even though my mother did not want that, but he took that job. And it wasn't a very good thing altogether because nobody, there was no PTSD treatment for anybody. They didn't know about that in those days.
No.
There was no psychology people that said, well, you went through all of this. What can we do for you? You all just had to figure it out yourself. And so I had a really hard upbringing because they had a lot of anger inside them that they could not get rid of the right way. So
understandably.
So they took it out on us a lot of times. And one of the things that my dad, because I was always so little and so weak, he always kept telling me that I couldn't do this, I couldn't do that, I couldn't, even if it wasn't very, very strenuous, I was not allowed to do anything because I was this poor little sick kid,
He held you back from doing things.
And he didn't really admit that I was his child until I was about 10 or 12 because at that time, all of a sudden, I started gaining a little bit more weight, and I was able to let my hair grow and not have it in braids all the time, and my hair was going around my face. And I still, to this day, I don't know why I remember that, but I remember we were standing in this room, and he said, "Oh my gosh, she's one of us." I still get goosebumps on it, and I remember where it was and how he said it.
How old were you again?
Pardon?
How old were you about then? 12,
about
did you say?
10 or 12, something like that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh. But your mom and dad were able to help you to move forward because you end up deciding to become a nurse at some point, correct?
Yeah, I wanted to become a nurse. I think I always wanted to become a nurse because I think what I had, and do it in the camp, hearing all that bad stuff. I wanted to help people, get them out of their misery and take good care of them. But my mother didn't think I was smart enough for that. So there was three hospitals in The Hague that gave people nurses training. So I was about 17, I think, and she took me to the 3 different hospitals. And she went to the head people that would accept me or not accept me. And she said, "Now, look at her. She's not very smart. Do you think she can follow your program?" And no, not if she isn't very smart. So then we went to the next one, and the same thing again. Here I'm 17 years old, and she's telling the people she's not very smart. Is there a way that she can do your program? No, she can't do that. So finally, the third one was more hands-on. It was not so much like chemistry and all that stuff. And they let me be there, and I really, really enjoyed that. I was really happy to help people and take care of them.
I don't know if you know this, but I'm also a nurse.
Yeah, isn't that nice? Isn't that a nice occupation?
Yes, it is. And I will tell you, I taught nursing for a while, and some people's stories on how they became a nurse are very impactful on how it shaped their career. And I can see how you, coming from not just the internment camp itself, but also the life you had to live after that, when you had to move on and go back to where you were and how they weren't accepting there. So your story, like I said, is a lot about resilience. So tell me about your nursing career, because I believe you met your husband that way, correct?
Yeah, the nursing program was 3 years, and after each year you had to do certain tests and stuff to make sure that you got to go to the next year. And I always was really worried about that I wouldn't pass the test or whatever. So then in 1963, my girlfriend and we decided to go on vacation. And I was 20 years old, and I had never been out of the Netherlands. And I said, well, I want to get out of the Netherlands. This is too small and I didn't like the people in Holland because they were too too much to rules and all that stuff. And I wanted to be free and do my own thing. I said, let's go to Germany. And we could go to England, but I didn't speak English and we had to take a boat. So that made it a little harder. So let's go to Germany and see if I can find somebody that would marry me maybe someday.
So you were on search.
I was on a search.
You were on a search.
I will admit it. I was on a search. But so we were in this nice little conditorei, and my girlfriend and I, and this was on a Friday night, and I said to my girlfriend, we need to find somebody who will buy us the wine because we don't have any more money. So let's see if we can find somebody. So anyway, across the room was this one guy, not my husband, but this guy. And he walked over to us because I was kind of winking at him. And he started talking, but he was American, and I didn't understand American much at all.
Oh.
But he said, well, I have a friend with me. Is it okay if I bring him over? Well, the friend was Gary, my husband. But at that time, he looked like a 16-year-old kid. I mean, he was older. He was like 21, but he looked like he was always real thin and stuff. And I said to my girlfriend, I said, no, he's not going to do it. That's not going to do it. He's not it. But he was the one that had the money. It was right after payday. The other guy, his wife was in America, and he had to send all the money to her to take care of her. And Gary had all kinds of money. So he was, you want another wine? You want this? You want that? And, we were dancing. And so then after about an hour or so, he said, I like you. And I did understand I like you. That was easy. And then a little while later, he said, I love you. Well, I never did understand how somebody can say I love you after 2 or 3 hours,
Uh-huh.
And so I didn't even take that into consideration. And then a little bit later, he said, will you marry me? And I thought he was asking for another date. Let's be married, have another good time. Mm-hmm. And I said, yes. And that's how it started.
And did you get married after?
Well, I had to get all checked out by the FBI and all that stuff because he was in the Air Force.
Okay.
We met in August, and every time when Gary came over to visit me, because he was in Germany and I went back to the Netherlands, he would bring a stack of papers for me to fill out. And of course, we had to have a dictionary in between us because I couldn't understand this and he couldn't understand that.
Wow.
But I think by the time it was October or November, all the paperwork was done. I had to go to Rotterdam a couple times to go meet the American whatever, FBI or whatever, get fingerprinted and checked out and all that stuff. And then we got married in February.
Wow. Now that is true love at first sight.
And we were married 56 years. We'd still be married if he hadn't died all of a sudden.
So he's passed away since.
Yeah. 5 years ago, he had a brain aneurysm, and he just from 1 minute to the next, literally from 1 minute to the next, he was gone.
Oh, I'm sorry. But you had a true love story, and that must bring you a lot of comfort.
It was really hard, though, because I was moving to a country. I didn't know the language. I didn't know your customs. I had no family there. And phone calls from America to the Netherlands was something like $9 per minute.
Whoa.
And my husband did not make very much money. So we went to America in February, the day after Valentine's Day, February 65. Oh, I had a baby. Right. We got married in February of 64. And my daughter was born in January of 65. And we immigrated to America, and I immigrated to America with my daughter in February 65. So she was only a month old. But
do you have any other children or just your daughter?
I have another child. I have a son.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So you had a nice family.
Mm-hmm. But like I said, it was really hard because if you have never gone to any other country, it's so different, like we, and Connie probably knows, we went in the Netherlands, you go grocery shopping or whatever every day. Everything is fresh every day. We didn't even have a refrigerator. So
really?
when people now say, well, what is the expiration date? I said, I don't look at it unless it has mold on it. I eat
Yeah.
it. I don't look at the date because I never had a refrigerator.
Yeah.
So, just like that. There's so many things that were different, and I didn't have any family here in America.
Yeah. After you like you came over here, you had your children, you kept the nursing career?
No,
No, you
because
didn't.
no, I wish I would have, but again, I was told I would have to start from scratch from day one.
Mm-hmm.
And with my language, I didn't have the language very good. And in the back of my head, I kept hearing, you can't do that. It's too hard.
Oh,
You won't be able to do that. So I didn't do that.
but you started counseling women, no?
Yeah, that was way later, way later. My husband had worked on me for a long time, showing me that I could do things and I was smarter than I let on and things like that.
Can you tell us a little bit about that? Your counseling and what you did with women?
I've counseled women that had been in very abusive situations and they didn't know how to get out. And so then I was telling them a little bit about my upbringing and what I had endured in the camps and stuff like that, and how I had overcome all of this. And for some reason or another, they figured out, well, if she can do that, maybe I can do that as well. So
Yeah.
that was
You
really
had an impact. You had an impact on them.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
So was it your husband who introduced you to this type of counseling, or how did you come across this? How did you start doing this?
We had some really good friends that we met in Arizona,
Mm-hmm.
and he was a psychologist.
Okay.
And they were very, very helpful for me, and they helped me out a lot and boosted me up and all that stuff. And I thought, oh, I want to be like Bob. I want to help people. I want to be a
Oh,
psychologist. So I did get my master's degree in psychology
you did here in the States.
in the States. And that's
Sounds
another
like you
story.
have a very smart brain to me.
And that was another story because when I went for my master's degree, I had to do some kind of a paper or research or something, and I had to have, I think, like 3 or 4 people on my to help me out and all that stuff. I forgot what you call that, and none of them wanted to help me out. So here I come. So I wrote a letter to the head of the whole school, and I said, I'm going to sue you people for $10 million because I have asked 10 people to be on my board, and none of them want to help me out. So I'm going to sue the school for $10 million. And you know how fast I got those people to
You
help me?
got the help, didn't you? Well, I would say resilience is definitely your definition. You're a very
Mm-hmm.
resilient woman, and you don't take no for an answer.
You can push me so far, and then that's it,
And then that's it. Let me ask you this. So while you're counseling women, you decide to yourself, I think I need to write my own story. How did that come about?
Well, I was talking to people in Wisconsin. I was living in Wisconsin at that time, and I was talking to people, not patients, not people that I was counseling, but friends and stuff. And they said, you need to write your story. There is a story in there. You need to write it. So enough people kept telling me that. So I thought, okay, I'll start writing my story. But it took me a long time, and I don't know if Connie told you that, but it took me something like several years to. And I came many times. I came to the point, just like Connie knows, I just give up, forget about it. I don't want to do it, and because when I was writing the story, even though I don't remember anything, but when I was writing it, all kinds of really dark, deep feelings came over me. Like I just didn't want to write anymore, because it was too hard. So my husband said, you either finish it or we'll just throw the whole works out. Make up your mind.
He pushed you.
He pushed me. Well, he didn't want me to. He didn't want me to be unhappy all the time. I was. This was hanging over my head, and I didn't know what to do with it. And he decided, you either do this or you do that, and that's it.
And your book was published originally in 2007?
Yeah, I did self-publishing, and
Self-publishing.
I didn't have nice people like you and Connie who helped me
Oh,
with all of that, because I had no clue how to do it, and I didn't know. I knew I didn't have like $5,000 or $10,000 to hire somebody to do that for me. So I self-published. I carried books in my car, and I went to meetings, and I gave talks and whatever, but it didn't go. So I finally gave up. Nobody seemed to be interested.
but they were. You
Not,
published.
not in that time. At that time, they were not, because
Okay.
I went to like the the different organizations that they have here, and I gave them talks about what had happened and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And this was even like 20 years ago, and nobody really reacted. They didn't want to buy any books. They didn't want to give me any leads, like, well, you can go and tell your story over there. Nobody really did anything, so I gave up.
So how did you finally get it published in 2007?
Oh, well, like I said, I forgot the name of that company.
I think it was called Dog Ear Publishing, which is no longer in existence.
Oh, okay. And they did all the manuscript and typing and all that stuff, and then they would print it for me and all that, and then I'd have to order so many books, and of course, if I only ordered 2 or 3, the process was a lot more expensive.
Expensive.
So yeah.
They like you order in bulk, right?
Well, and now we've got, print on demand, right? So this from 2007 till today, the technology, everything is so different today. Mm-hmm. So when Francoise and I connected, I wasn't really sure how this project was going to take off, but it really is so different. It really is. And so it's, it's perfect timing, isn't it, Francoise? Why is it perfect timing to relaunch your book?
I think more people are interested in it because I talked to more people, and they said, well, we didn't know about it. And you know what the funny thing is, though? I talked to young Japanese people that were born after the war, and they said, oh, that never happened. You're just making that up. Because the Japanese lost the war, so they're not going to put that in the history book.
It's not in their history books.
No, so nobody talks about it. And they actually told me I was a liar, that never happened.
And I think that's why a lot of Americans aren't familiar with it either.
No.
Because it's not in any history books. It's not something we know. I'm not a history buff. I'm not a minor like Connie was in history. But, I was unaware of it. So I just want to go back real quick. You originally published in 2007. You're relaunching now, the book, and you're relaunching with Connie. I'd love to hear that story.
What do you want to hear about that? How we met?
Well, Connie, if you want to give us a little bit of background about how you met up with Francoise and how you decided to get moving with this relaunch of the book.
Francoise reached out to me, and it was because I published my own book in 2021. And our books are very similar. And I think what happened with Francoise is she saw my book, and she was like, it looks like my book. And it really does. They're the same shade of blue. They both have a black and white photo on them. And my book is called Holding On to Joy. Hers is Hold On to Your Dreams. Right? So Francoise, I created this Facebook group, and I was, just out there with my message. And Francoise asked to join the group. So we had this, she joined, and then she wanted to do a call. And so we're on the call, and she's like, I have this book, and I think I should rewrite it because I want to relaunch it, and I want to make something of the book. I know that, because now it's been all these years where enough people have said to her, I didn't know about that part of history. And so it's funny because she really was considering rewriting the book. And I said, what, can I read it? And so she actually gave me her manuscript.
Oh, wow.
And then I ended up buying it because it was hard to find on Amazon because it had been a while. So I actually bought the book and sent it to my mom because, as you know, I now live in Costa Rica. And so it was kind of awkward. I couldn't really get a Kindle version because it wasn't up on Kindle. So anyway, I read the whole manuscript and I said, I think you'd be crazy to rewrite this book. I've gotten to know you over the last few months, and now I know that your book is written in your voice. Françoise was working with somebody who said, "Oh, you should like write it more descriptive, like what the camp was like." And you know what? First of all, she was a child. Second of all, it wasn't her personality. It wasn't her voice. So right. I said, you know what, Françoise, you don't need to rewrite the book. You need a marketing plan. So I don't know how you want me to help you with that, but whatever. Right. So she's like, I know you can help me. So I had every faith in the world that her story needed to be retold, relaunched. Because guess what? Next month is the 80th anniversary of when the internment camp was liberated. Right. Mm-hmm. Well, I then ended up meeting a woman who has sort of been my mentor for the last year. She is in publishing. She's been in publishing for about 20 years because I published a book. And because I now had gotten to know Françoise for over a year, she suggested that we do it under my imprint. And honestly, this is really the way that I wanted to help women. I wanted to help women write their stories and get it out in the world. And this was just the way it came about. And so this other woman who mentored me is an incredible source of knowledge for us. We've had several calls with her. She's guided us. She's really helped us with getting, and now I can do it, right? So now I'm registered with the Library of Congress. I can purchase my own ISBN numbers. And it really just one thing led to another. And Françoise just has been incredible because she's like, I don't know how you're going to help me, but you're going to help me. And I was like, I don't know what to say about that.
Well, you couldn't say no to her after all she's been through, right, Françoise?
No, exactly. That's how I felt. I was like, wow. And it's true, right? Once you start, I believe that when something's meant to happen and you just start walking on the path, you don't know how it's going to turn out. You don't have any idea how to do any of it. But if it's the right thing, you'll get help. And that's what happened with us. And here we are.
So another reason I wanted to redo it again is because between 2007 and now, when I was telling people, I was thinking about doing the book again. And they said, well, we want to know what happened between 2007 and now. What was your life like? Because we know about the first whatever years, but we don't know nothing about what your life was after 2007. So I think that's the first part of the book where I tell a little bit about.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And that's so when you're relaunching a book, I've learned so much now, right? So when you're really relaunching a book, it's like 20 to 25% of the book has to change, right? So that was the big thing. It was like, there was all that piece. So the book starts out with why I wrote this book, and it gives the background, from 2007, all the traveling Gary and Françoise did together and a whole bunch of other stuff. But this gives other people who know Françoise or, maybe people who even read the first book, now they read this book, they get like that fill-in of what happened from then to now.
Well, we're not going to share that part because we want everybody to read that, right?
Right. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Were you going to say something?
No, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I'm waiting for you.
Well, I didn't know if you had any other questions but what was the bad part is that my dad, when I said I wanted to become a nurse, even though my grandma was a nurse and my grandpa was a doctor, my dad did not think nurse was a very good occupation. In fact, he said, you're just a maid putting people on pots to pee. That's all you are. And so he didn't encourage it at all. My mother more or less encouraged me, but she kept saying I wasn't smart enough for that. But but my dad did not think at all that would be good. He always had this idea, even though he never was anything. He thought he was a white collar person, and he actually was only a blue collar person. He was not. We weren't all that's. He had a lot of things not good for him either. So anyway. I haven't.
So let me just ask you, I love the story and I'm so glad you've shared it, and I'm going to put a link to your book in our show notes so that people have it if they want to purchase it and find out the whole story. But Obviously, you've impacted many lives, not only through your nursing, but through your counseling that you did. You impacted Connie's life. She changed the way she was designing what she was doing with her writing.
Absolutely.
I was wondering if you had one message that you could leave the audience. For me, my message from you is pure resilience. But if you could leave the audience with one message before we sign off, what would that be?
Well, my message would be, no matter how old you are and no matter how little you think you can do, just keep on trying, because you can do it. And sometimes it takes decades to really get what you want. But don't give up. Don't ever give up. Just keep on going and keep plugging away.
I like that message. I think that's a good place for us to end today.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for having us.
Francoise, Thank you for being here. Connie, thank you for being here and relaunching the book. Real excited to get my hands on that and read it myself.
Yep.
Okay.
Copy coming.
Thank you both. Have a great night.
Thanks,
okay. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
I want to add one footnote to today's episode. Françoise and Connie will be doing a book launch on August 15th virtually. I will provide the Zoom link so you can join and ask your questions. I will also provide the link for her book in the show notes. Hope you enjoyed today's episode. Thank you for joining me on Extraordinary People in an Ordinary World. I hope you enjoyed today's show. Please share with a friend. If you know an extraordinary person, I would love to hear from you so that I can feature them on the show. Please email me at bethextraordinarypeople@gmail.com, or you can message me on Instagram at extraordinary_people_podcast. I look forward to hearing from you. And in the words of Saint Mother Teresa, not all of us can do great things, but we can all do small things with great love. I look forward to our next extraordinary person, the first Friday of next month. See you then.